then he's on this like fighter advocacy thing. Like, what do you make of
like
that?
Like a fighters union?
Yeah.
Type deal?
Yeah. Something along those lines. He hasn't been extremely clear, but yes, he wants to have something for the fighters so they can come in and they can bargain a little more collectively. I know that medical benefits are a huge one. I've heard a number of guys say that. And when they do say it, I don't want to tease them. Like, that seems like a nice thing to want people to have more. I like that. But it does concern me. Go, wait, do you guys not have it? Because Dana didn't get it for you like he's your father. Do you guys not know it's at one phone call? And you get set up, and
that's the thing.
I do wonder about that.
With like Francis Ngannou, when he was like, yeah, that was one of the things I'm arguing about. I'm like, you're making $8 million a fight or whatever that is. It's $400 a month for health insurance. Like, you can't just pay for the year.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, maybe there's other things in the contract that he wasn't talking about, but like, you're a independent contractor.
Yes.
It's just it's the blanket statement of every independent contractor in the United States.
Very clear that whole hang-up was about being allowed to box or not. So the health insurance is a real red herring in that conversation. Yes. It's got nothing to do with it.
And by the way, what do you predict there? I mean, so yes, it's about the boxing match, and now Tyson Fury's come out and says, I want to do the boxing match, but we don't have a promoter that's got distribution or a pocketbook or a ring for that matter. So how are they going to do that? Because I didn't see a value in Ngannou. I saw a value in the sitting UFC heavyweight champion with Dana White, Carnival Barker in your corner. If you take that out of it, I feel you took the value out. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong, and I think that what you're pointing to is what is so wrong with the dynamics of boxing. People say, but look at how much money these boxers make, and I would say that, and look what happened to the sport because it's so disorganized, and there isn't a promotion that's really got a control of it. And that's why the UFC is doing so well. I would say that the biggest problem with an Ngannou-Fury fight is the fact that Ngannou had to wrestle his way to victory against Ciryl Gane. Like, the striking wasn't there against Ciryl Gane. So what's to make us believe that the striking is at the level that's going to make it worth watching Fury and Ngannou?
Yeah, I see that as problematic as well. The fact, and great job to Ngannou for having that weapon that we didn't know he had, turn into that tool, digging deep. I mean, he deserves a lot of credit for that win over Ciryl, but I saw that too. We're not talking about Ciryl versus Tyson, and Ciryl was clearly the better striker, right? So I think that's an interesting spot, and it does concern me for Francis. I don't think... Because it all comes to Genesis is Conor McGregor fighting Floyd Mayweather, but some guys seem to be missing. Conor McGregor did not get $100 million to fight Floyd Mayweather. The two-division simultaneous champion with Dana White in your corner got $100 million to box, and I feel that perhaps Francis is missing that. And, he sure seems like a gentleman to me, Francis. Seems like a very nice guy. But this one is, it's a miss, and we don't know how old he is. He's at least 36 years old, and that time goes fast. Now you got a bum knee on top of it, man. Should have taken that $8 million, in my opinion.
You don't know how old he is?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, so where he comes from, it's very tough to get records. It's very tough, and so he's saying he's 36.
He doesn't even know himself?
Well, I don't. He could take a great offense to that. I don't want to go down the road of offending him. I'm just sharing with you. He claims to be 36. I'll see that he's at least 36. He could be older than that, though. And I'll tell you, in this sport, man, it changes. It changes quick. He was blessed with some very beautiful DNA, but it does catch you at some point.
At the same time, though, the last thing to go is power.
Yep.
And so heavyweights are going to last longer than the lighter guys.
It sounds like you can just count the tree rings on his tree trunk legs.
Sure, yeah.
The real pisser about it, though, is that when he did emerge against Ciryl as a wrestler that we did not know he was, he became a lot more interesting in MMA.
Sure.
And now he's just left. Like, you really wanted to see the evolution continue with Ngannou.
Oh, Francis versus Jon Jones. I mean, for our entire industry, you co-promote any way that you want to do it. That is the biggest match our industry could produce. That was something very special. Jon taking 3 years to go put on the size, I disagree with Jon on that. Jon was saying I need to weigh 240. Saying this about I got to weigh 240 to beat these heavyweights. I think he could have walked right in there weighing 206 and beaten all those heavyweights. I don't think that Jon has ever fully understood quite how good Jon is. I was getting ready to fight him, and I was on a conference call with him, and he was talking about the things that he had to do to beat me, and he was talking about the things he had to do to be the best light heavyweight ever, who he was saying was Tito Ortiz. And I'm listening to this going, there's none of those things that are true. You're going to kill me, and you would kill Tito too.
And he was like 21.
Yeah, I'm on my phone. Yeah, that's right. He's a 21-year-old kid. I got to go show him this respect, but I knew he was better than he knew he was. I guess maybe that's my point. And I think that's one of his strengths. I think the fact that he does still get scared, that he does, still see these guys in ways that they could win. I think that's one of the things that keeps Jon sharp. But yeah, we'll only have to wonder what would have happened if those two would have fought. That'd be a special night.
I mean, I wonder if Jon Jones watched Israel Adesanya go up to light heavyweight and just get held down by Jan Blachowicz and think, ooh, I don't want to do that. Let me put on some weight.
Sure. No, it could be. I know that Jon shares the practice room with a lot of very meaningful heavyweights. Travis Brown comes to mind. Alistair Overeem comes to mind. Andrei Arlovsky. But these guys were champions. These guys had real good, and they'll be the first to tell you. We couldn't really deal with him. He moved too well. He was too long. So I bring that up really as a compliment to Jon. I think that he also burned 3 good years of his life. I think there's some real good moments to have there, and I can't relate. I was never good enough as Jon. I wanted to be world champion. Jon won so many world championships. He gave one of them back. He goes, here, you take it. I couldn't imagine giving one back, but that's another level of success. Or even Francis to walk away and give a belt back. I couldn't even imagine.
I was critical at the time when he vacated the belt. I said, the tell for me was that we had seen so many champs up to that point. Mm-hmm. The goal is champ.
Sure.
There's nobody ever gave back a belt to be a single champ in another division.
Sure.
So that indicated to me that I don't know. It was weird. And I remember too because we were out in Albuquerque with Jon Jones, staying at his house, and at the time he was fresh off of his controversial win over Dominic Reyes. He was doing his I'm gonna go save the world with the CARE project thing, and he invited us out to be a part of that. And he was really outspoken about there's not enough pay. I want more money. And I told him, I said, I think that the way to get more money is to understand that everybody wants to see you lose, and your last fights were so close. People even arguing that you didn't win them, that people really believe now is the chance to see Jon Jones lose.
Sure.
That's the leverage, And to your point, 3 years away.
Yeah. Well, that's what's keeping the Jake Paul experiment above float too, is that people want to see him get beat.
Yeah.
And if Jon would steer into that just a little bit, I think he's got a very favorable matchup with Surreal. I think that I'd really like to know what happened with Stipe. I personally would just like to see Stipe in there more. Stipe believes he's going to fight the winner. I don't know if I'm bullish on that. If you couldn't get the fight with Jon now, you've waited 14 months to get it. If you can't get it now, what's going to be different 6 months from now? So let's see how that all plays out. But I would like to leave you guys with one thought on that, which is when Jon left 3 years ago, he put, you talk about burning bridges, he put C4 all over that bridge. He didn't know how to detonate it, but if he would have known, he would have blown that bridge up. I mean, he was not coming back, and everything's going to be changed, and you're going to give everybody different things, or you'll never see me again. He's now back and with a raise and into a world title fight. Francis was a gentleman. If we're going to tell the story accurately, we do have to say that about Francis. He never used profanity, never raised his voice. Francis never made any threats, and he's a very intimidating guy. And my only point being, if Jon can come back after what he did, Francis can come back too. And if I was to make a prediction, he's going to.
Right.
Yeah, Francis has a rude awakening coming. And I will tell you, I don't think he meant to disrespect Dana White. But to sit down and tell Dana there's problems with Dana's contract, after everything that Dana did and the way Dana changed the sport, now you're going to sit down and you're going to tell Dana, Steve, let's just change this. Dana sits down with you and tells you how to throw a jab. Then he tells you how to throw a cross. Then he tells you how much you should be eating and sleeping. And now you go, wait, leave the fighting to me. You bring the bells and whistles, I'll bring the action. It's like, exactly. So why are you telling me how to do the business side of this? You're not going to change my contract. You're not going to change the way that I do things. Francis wants to have a meeting before every single fight he has, and I know he doesn't mean that as rude. He thinks that's a respect, but there's not enough time to have those kind of meetings. meetings. Dana puts on 11 fights every single Saturday. It is so disrespectful for you to imply that we're going to sit down and talk about talking. We got to get things done quickly.
Right.
And that's just the reality. If you don't understand that, you're being rude to me, even if you're not trying to be, but you are.
What kind of a time frame do you think we can see the boxing not work as well for Francis as he hopes it might, and for him to come back to the UFC?
Yeah, I'm concerned with that.
6 months.
Sure. That's a great guess. So Tyson Fury came out last night, just in case you guys didn't see this. Tyson Fury comes out last night. He says, hey, Francis Ngannou, I know that you're no longer under contract with the UFC, so let's you and me fight. And they've always talked that they're going to go make a sport up. They're not just going to box. They're not going to do MMA. They're going to create something. So Tyson laid out what that is. He said, we're going to do it in a cage. We're going to do it with 4-ounce gloves. It's going to be Queenberry rules. And Mike Tyson is going to be the special referee. And it's like, okay, now see, I grew up with guys that would ask the girl out, but then they'd put LOL. Hey, we should go to a movie this weekend, LOL. It's like, oh, but that's what Tyson's now done. Putting Mike Tyson in there as a special guest referee was laying out a plan that you really like to work, but you're not sure anybody's going to sign off on it, so then you went too far with it. And I just thought it was silly. I'm going, Tyson, if you can't get this done, if you can't find somebody with distribution and a platform to scoop this up, this is a huge miss. This is a massive, massive mistake. And why are you guys going off to make out your own sport?
Yeah.
Like, what's on the line? Your reputation has got to be on the line, or his reputation. It can't be we're doing this for nothing. It's got to be one or the other. Do Queensberry or do unified rules of MMA.
What's
but
Queensberry?
Queensberry just means Western boxing.
Okay.
Yeah. They like to call it Queensberry. If you're a real prick to show that you're a boxing historian, you'll throw out the term like Queensberry, which is precisely why it just means Western boxing.
Okay. Yeah, man, it's really interesting. I hope that Scott's right. 6 months.
Well, I mean, it's like with Dana White's always trying to plan something, or somebody's like wants to start their own thing. He's like, go for it. Do you have any idea how hard it is to start something? Like, I mean, that documentary 3 Letters. I mean, you saw how hard it was to get the UFC off the ground. It's like, well, you're just going to do that now?
That's right. That's right. So he doesn't know he's being disrespectful, Scott. Francis doesn't know he's being a jerk about this. Telling Dana, we're going to sit down and talk before every time I have a fight. Dana's got 556 guys under contracts. He puts on 11 fights every Saturday. There's no one that he can sit and talk with. The hotel, before we check everybody in, I'm not going to talk to you every week. The airplanes, before every plane ticket, I'm not going to talk to all of them. And I can't talk to every fight. I got to be able to text you. I got to be able to do a step further, which is something that Dana did last night. He goes to a press conference and he announces Glover Teixeira versus Jamal Hill for the light heavyweight championship. He hadn't spoken to those guys. They had never agreed to fight each other. They never agreed to go 5 rounds. They never agreed it was going to be a title fight and they were going to meet in Brazil. Dana knew he could count on them. He goes to a press conference. He's in a jam. He's got a light heavyweight fight that goes to a draw that wasn't supposed to do that. He goes and makes an announcement, and they both make the boss look good. That's what you do if you're actually on board. Francis wants to sit down and talk. He doesn't know he's being rude, but he is. That's extremely rude, and the world doesn't work that way. We don't have time.
Who's giving him that advice?
I haven't the foggiest idea. He dropped his manager. He dropped his manager, who was a guy with CAA, Markel, who'd done a very good job, and then he was getting advice from many people, but he actually handed it himself, which is one of the reasons this was a problem. One of the demands that Francis made, on top of health insurance, he demanded that there be a fighter advocate at every meeting like the one they're having. And Dana's looking around going, Francis, first, I don't give guys meetings, but I'm giving you one. Secondly, you didn't bring an advocate. You could have brought an advocate. You didn't bring one. You fired your advocate. So you're telling me to provide an advocate for all the guys. First off, if I provide the guy, he's gonna be helping me, not you. And secondly, why didn't you bring one if they're so important? And that was just a little bit of the conflict that they ran into, where at some point you're looking around going, man, this isn't worth it.
Do you like shopping on Amazon? I do. And good news is, Steve-O's butt wipes for your butthole are available on Amazon. And if you want a real bundle of a deal, you can get Steve-O's hot sauce for your butthole, plus Steve-O's butthole destroyer, and Steve-O's butt wipes for your butthole. It's the butthole bundle, available on Amazon right now.
Yeah, dude.